Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I'm Jordan and this is my spoiler review, or more of a discussion and telling you my thoughts and opinions specifically on certain scenes and characters, etc, of Halloween 1978, directed by John Carpenter, starring Donald Pleasence and Jamie Lee Curtis. If you haven't seen this film yet, there's obviously going to be spoilers, so you can check out my previous video, the spoiler free review, and then come back here after you watched it and tell me your thoughts and opinions below. So you have been warned. Go turn away now. Go watch the film, then come back. I watched this film twice, once in 2018 in the lead up to the new film because my girlfriend really wanted to watch it, but I never watched any of the Halloweens. However, I only watched the first one because it's the only one that is considered canon to 2018 and the ones that are coming out after. And I completely forgot I watched it. That's why I watched it again last week leading up to Halloween to get in the Halloween spirit. I thought I never watched it and I really wanted to. But I was watching it and I was like, I remember this and I remember that and I remember this, and I thought maybe I watched about half of the movie and for some reason left it. It got to the end of the movie and I was like, I remember the whole movie, I just forgot it. And the same thing happened with Scream 1. Now I don't know if it was because I was younger when I watched it or I wasn't really invested in it. I was just really watching it so I knew what was happening so I could watch the other film. But I definitely appreciated it a lot more the second time. And some films are like that, you need to watch them more than once to really appreciate them. Some are instant hits, some take a while, some you hate even more the more you watch it, like The Last Jedi. But that's a video for another time. To illustrate my point about not appreciating it the first time around, but the second time is most prevalent to me with the intro, the title sequence where you've got the main theme playing and it's zooming in slowly to the pumpkin. The first time I watched it, I thought, this is incredibly boring, it's way too long, like, just hurry up. It felt like ages. But the second time, it really hyped me up for the movie to come. I was like, oh, this is setting the mood. It's setting the atmosphere really well, it's intense, there's a sense of dread, inevitability, and just suspense is coming. It's like, this film has a serious mood, so it's really foreshadowing what's to come, and I really appreciated it more the second time. An amazing shot that a lot of people love is the POV of Michael at the start of the movie, the first scene. It is a really good way to introduce your movie and the villain. You're following Michael as a kid and his sister and her boyfriend are making out and stuff. Totally oblivious to him and not really caring where he is. They notice that he's gone, but they don't look after him or care about his whereabouts. And he gets this massive kitchen knife. He goes to go up the stairs and the boyfriend comes down and sort of tucks himself in a little bit. But I was kind of surprised that the boyfriend, when he looked back up the stairs, didn't see Michael, because his eyes would have glanced over him. Even if it was in the corner of his eye, I believe he would have noticed a kid in a clown outfit. It's very colourful and shiny with a big kitchen knife as well. I was like, okay, I'll let that one go. But I think he definitely would have seen it. But it's not like a big issue for the movie. I understand that, they couldn't have him catch him straight away or else there would be no movie. So he proceeds to go up the stairs and he finds his clown mask that goes with his outfit. And he puts it on. And then you can hear him breathing through it. And he goes into his sister's room. But I don't understand that her first instinct was to cover her chest because she was topless. I know that you probably wouldn't want your siblings to see you in that way, but did she not notice the massive kitchen knife in his hand? Like, you've got to get your priorities straight. What do you think he's going to do with this knife? Like, do you think he's offering to make you a sandwich? Like, come on, if he's holding it like this, that's a really sort of stabby position. I don't know what else to call it, but if you're holding it like that, you really want to stab someone, right? And I also thought her death was really cringy. This is one of the moments I thought was acted really poorly, because she's all just sort of flailing out of control and so sort of melodramatically. It didn't really fit. I think it would be better if she was sort of more subtle in her actions, and it didn't seem to sync up with the stabbing motion. Like, it just didn't fit at all. It looked a bit sloppy, in my opinion. But then Michael goes out of the house and this car pulls up with his parents in, and the dad comes out, takes the mask off and just says Michael. And then it gets a bit confusing because it zooms out and it looks like a freeze frame, but not, because they're still slightly moving, but nothing is really going on. They're not saying anything. They're just doing subtle things, like the mum just puts her hands in her pockets for some reason. And I don't think that is the correct reaction to finding your son with a bloody kitchen knife. They didn't scream or take the knife off him. Like, I know he's a kid, but he could still try and stab the parents, and it wouldn't take a lot. He could just stab and cut something and do a bit of damage.
That's a lot of damage!
And they also don't sort of say anything about the sister. They know that she's there, but they don't go to check on her or say, "What did you do, Michael?" or anything. They just sort of stand there accepting what was happening. And the mum as well, she just sort of stands there like, "I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed," which makes no sense. It's like she knew this was going to happen, or something like this has happened before and she doesn't even really care. That's the vibe I got from their reactions, is that they don't care. It doesn't show them to be really good, caring parents. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to work out that blood on a kitchen knife is a bad thing, and it's probably not ketchup if he's holding it like this as well. I think you can tell the difference between ketchup and blood. So that's another piece of the acting that I really didn't like. But then we cut to Dr. Loomis, Donald Pleasence's character, in the car with this nurse driving up to the asylum, and I really like his mood and his sort of lack of interest with what he has to do. He doesn't want to take Michael to court, but he knows he has to do it. He thinks it's the wrong thing to do, but no one would listen to him anyway. So I liked his one-word answers. He really didn't care all that much about doing it, but I don't think he thought that something was going to go wrong. So he gave very one-word answers, like he's really done with this whole thing after looking after Michael. So they're driving to the asylum, and then they, for some reason, see patients just walk in the field, and the nurse is like, "Did they normally let them wander?" And it's like, it's pitch black, it's nighttime. Of course they're not going to let them wander in a field outside the asylum unguarded. And then Donald Pleasence runs up to the gate to see what's happening and see what he can do to help. But it doesn't seem like there are any guards there or any security or any staff at all, and you just think, what the hell happened here? How does something like this happen? Like, surely the security should be better than that. And anyway, we get to one of the worst shots in the movie. Not the worst, but one of the worst. When this patient randomly just jumps on the car, and then the nurse thought it would be a good idea to unwheel the window. I don't know why, because even if nothing were to happen, how would it even help? What would she accomplish by opening the window? You might think that I'm being a bit too harsh, like really thoroughly talking about these little issues that probably didn't bother some of you that much. These are things that I noticed, and this is how it made me feel. Like, it's not the worst thing, but it did bother me a little bit. The movie would have been a lot better if it didn't have some of these elements in it. So then this patient chokes her through the window, and then she goes to the other side, leans across to the passenger seat, and then he slams the glass and it breaks. And then she dives out of the car, which I think this was framed sort of awkwardly. It was a low shot pointing upwards a bit, and she comes right in focus of the camera, and then the patient jumps off in a really sort of sloppy, it looked unchoreographed and awkward way, get in the car, and then Dr. Loomis comes and he drives off, and it was a bit too much going on, and you didn't really know where to look. It was a bit too fast as well. I didn't even realise it was Michael Myers before Dr. Loomis hinted at it, saying the evil is gone. What I didn't like about this shot as well was that you see Michael's face, even though it's briefly and not focused in very much, you see it, and it sort of just made him look like a regular guy. I did think he was just a normal patient. I didn't think there was anything special about him. I thought it was just another patient trying to escape, and we would never see that guy for the rest of the movie. I didn't like how quick the escape happened without any build-up or explanation. It just happened, and it felt way too rushed, in my opinion. Is they're talking about Michael, and he's already, gone. We have no idea what happened or how he got into that situation where he was out of the asylum with other patients, and what happened to the security. And it might not bother some of you to not have an explanation, but it did me, because I was confused. And perhaps that's why I didn't enjoy it as much the first time as I did the second time. I loved the whole sort of interaction with Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis's character with the boy Tommy. They seemed to have good chemistry. It felt genuine, she was tussling his hair, and he was being, annoying. Sort of like, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? Because obviously she's babysitting him later. Then she goes to the Myers' house to drop off a key because her dad's gonna try and sell it later. And Tommy's like, no, don't go there. Like how kids are, like that whole old abandoned house is haunted and stuff. And when she puts the key under the doormat, you can see Michael standing there breathing, and it's an awesome shot that she doesn't notice. It's got that predator-prey vibe to it. And I also liked it when Dr. Loomis is driving to the town, I can't remember what it's called, because he thinks that Michael's going there because he's known him for so long. And he sees this garage truck run off the road, and he investigates and sees Michael's gown and the nurse's matches from the car. But I love how unsettling it makes you feel that he doesn't notice the body in the hedge. And he didn't look. I don't know why he didn't look, if he assumed that he didn't kill anyone, or if he didn't really care, but it wouldn't really fit for his character. But I just felt maybe he was in such a rush that he was worried about everyone else in the town, that he was just like, yeah, Michael's done this, he's gone, I need to go. Like, we're on the trail, but it's getting colder and colder. I also like that Dr. Loomis is sort of just behind Michael in a lot of places. In a lot of parts of the film, he's just behind. Like he was fresh on the trail when the garage truck was there. Like it was like it's still warm. Like he wasn't there, but he was there not too long ago. And I like that happens throughout the whole movie. It's a bit like a cat and mouse. I like because Dr. Loomis has a sort of idea of where Michael's going to be because he's known him for so long, but he doesn't know exactly. That's quite nice for the plot, that it's not got plot armor and he just like, he's there and then he's there. He's like, it's a lot more believable in the way they did it, because he's like, oh yeah, he came back to the house like I thought he would, so I think he's going to come back again. And then he waited there, and he waited for a while, and he's like, yeah, maybe he's not gonna come back. He didn't know all the answers, which I liked, because in some movies they're like, oh, he's just disappeared, and then they're like, I know where he's gonna be, and then they just find him like perfectly in the middle of the act, and everything can stop the person, he or she, and it's just like, okay, that's fine. Just do it like that, then that's great storytelling, really good writing. So I loved it. It was quite exciting actually. Just this, it was a bit like an investigation. Like it's like, oh yeah, following these little like clues leading up to the final act of the film. which is where it all goes down. So exciting. And then I liked it when Dr. Loomis wanted to warn the cop about Michael, so he went to see him. And it's this hardware store, and the burglar alarm's going off, and there's a few cops there at the crime scene. And, you know, he's just like, I need to talk to you. And the cop's just like, whatever it is, it can wait. And then he tells him what got stolen. He says, it's just kids, a couple of knives and a Halloween mask. Like, okay, the Halloween mask, yeah, that could be kids, but knives, like, this guy's a cop and he's not responsible at all. He's also a dad, so you would think that if he did think it was kids, that he would be a lot more worried about it than he is. Because come on, kids shouldn't have like kitchen knives and stuff walking around, you know? Like, this guy is not a very good cop. He's not a genius at all, or responsible. Do you know what I mean? Like, come on, dude. He just seems so casual about it. Like, yeah, it's just some kids. They just got some knives. Probably ain't gonna do anything bad with it. Like, yeah, I'll just return the knives later. I just wanted it to look good for my costume. But then the cop's like, yeah, I have no time for you. You can wait. I'm gonna look at this crime scene and you can just wait here. So Dr. Loomis just waits patiently, and he has got a lot of patience, I tell you, because he gets treated badly throughout the whole movie, you know. Don't listen to him, don't believe him, but also blame him. So he has quite a hard time in the movie overall, to be honest. So he's just waiting there, and then you can see the car that Michael stole earlier driving, and Dr. Loomis decides to look this way, and the car went that way. And you just think, imagine if he just looked that way and he saw him. I love thinking about how if certain things happened differently, how it would have dramatically changed the whole thing, you know, like I like to think about it with Star Wars and Game of Thrones and stuff. And this is one of them. Like, imagine if he saw Michael and was on the chase there. I don't think I would have liked it if he did spot him. I love it that he didn't. You know, it's the whole sort of like butterfly effect thing, kind of, you know, you go left and go right, and you just happen to go left, but imagine if you went right. I just loved it, how close he was to seeing Michael, how early on as well. Like, he had one chance to find him, and he missed it by such a small margin, because he just decided to look that way instead of that way. And it's like that thing, you know, where you're like, oh, imagine if I went the other way. What would have happened if I went that way? It was quite thrilling for me to witness that. Like, I found quite a lot of excitement in that scene. I love it when Michael drives past them and Annie says something to make him stop, and he just stops there, because I didn't know what he was going to do. I didn't know if he was going to drive back and just look at them creepy or what. But it was a very cool shot that he just paused there for ages, and the girls had no idea how to react, and then he just drives off. I also like that they said that she's going to get them into trouble. For me personally, another thing I didn't like about it is that Michael Myers doesn't have a real reason to kill. They just pass it off as he's evil, he's not human, he's a monster, he's the devil, he's the boogeyman. And to me, that's really weak and lazy, and I know that that's a controversial opinion, and a lot of you will probably really disagree with that, because I've seen comments saying that the scariest thing is someone with no motive. But I just feel like there has to be a reason, even if it is as simple as he just enjoys it. But I noticed things throughout the movie that made me think maybe I am overthinking, but maybe he did have a reason. Maybe he wanted to kill Laurie because she came to the Myers' house and he was insulted by it. Perhaps he killed Annie because she insulted him and he remembered that. And then everyone else he killed was either necessary, like the mechanic, to further his goal, because obviously you want to escape. That was a necessary kill to him. And other people he killed just got caught in the crossfire, because he is very selective of who he kills. It's very random, but it doesn't feel very random. He only kills teenagers, really, and young adults. He doesn't kill old people or children, which also suggests that there is a reason to his killing someone. They just don't explain. which did kind of bother me. I love that all the stalking happens in the day, like where he's standing through the hedge, so obviously that anyone could see him, but no one does except Laurie. And then Annie says, like, "You were going crazy, you're seeing men behind bushes." That made me laugh. And I thought the cop was a bit of a jerk because he's just standing there. He knows Laurie's not paying any attention because she's facing the other way, and still walks forwards and walks into him. He's like, yeah, everyone deserves one good scare on Halloween. Like, she forgot what day it was. I love it when she is passing off her seeing Michael's superstition and thinking that she's outgrown it, really downplaying the whole thing. And then she's in her room, and it's the iconic scene of him standing there by the washing line and looking up. And I love how blatantly obvious he is standing there not caring that she can see him. It's like he wants her to see him. He's trying to intimidate her, and he's really playing with his food. Michael is very playful in how he kills people and stuff. You know, he doesn't always do it really simply. He does some of it methodically and very theatrically. And then I genuinely thought that Michael was calling Laurie to mess with her, because Laurie picks up the phone and all you can hear is noises. And she puts it down, and then I picks it back up. Then it's Annie saying, "Oh, I was just chewing." And it's like, you would really cool while chewing. Like, come on. I know it's Halloween, but you don't have to be that much of a jerk. I do feel bad for Tommy when he's getting bullied by them kids as well. They're just such jerks. Trip him up, break the pumpkin. Another confusing thing to me about his whole personality was when he goes out of his way to grab one of the bullies when they come out of the school. He just grabs them. It's not like the kid just walked into him and he looked up. I don't know why he did that. Maybe he just wanted to scare him and he didn't really care, because obviously if a kid goes and tells something, they're not going to believe him. Also, it's a guy dressed up on Halloween. It's nothing too unusual. I do feel bad for Dr. Loomis as well, because no one believes him throughout the whole movie, but they believe him enough that they're happy to blame him for Michael's escape, even though it wasn't his fault. You hear him talking to this other doctor saying that he was warning them, that they had to be more careful with transporting him to court and to not underestimate them. And Michael really played the fool and did fool the doctors, but not Dr. Loomis. But Dr. Loomis is the one who ends up looking crazy. Another thing I didn't really like about Michael's whole personality, I guess you would say, is he smart or is he dumb? They're sort of acting both, and they pick one whenever it's necessary for the plot. He's smart enough to drive a car without having any lessons and spending his whole childhood in an asylum, but then he does other stupid things later on, like faffing about with a light. And yes, of course, you can have dumb slashers. A lot of them are, notably Jason Voorhees, but it's just the fact that they didn't pick one or the other, because another thing they didn't explain is how he knew how to drive. He went there when he was 6 and he left when he was 21. Even one of the doctors points this out to Loomis, saying that it's impossible for him to drive, and Loomis says, well, he was doing pretty well last night, maybe one of you lot taught him. And then you could possibly think that something more sinister was going on at this asylum. Maybe they did teach him, but that's never explored, and maybe I'm thinking too much into it again. Then Dr. Loomis wants to go and see Judith's grave, which is Michael Myers' sister. And I like how sort of agitated he is with the graveyard keeper, because the graveyard keeper's talking about some other psycho killer from another town. And Dr. Loomis does humour him for a little while, but then he gets a bit fed up. He's like, yeah, we get to the point, I want to see Judith. Maybe he's had enough of hearing about death and all of that. And then he's like, what, are you lost? He says, oh, why did these kids have to do it on Halloween? They're just so disrespectful. And it's Judith Myers' grave, and it's got... I love it when they get to the Myers' house. Dr. Loomis is with the local sheriff, which is Annie's dad. The sound, the piece of music they play in this is very, very mood setting, and it does fit very well. it feels good. It's very inquisitive and a little bit like scary, maybe a bit dodgy, like you think something is gonna happen. They find this dog on the floor. You don't see it, but they're like, it's still warm, and coldly, blankly, Dr. Loomis just says he got hungry. And it's just like, what? He just killed a dog and is eating it, and there's still some left, and the cop's just like, nah, it's probably a skunk. And he's like, it could have been, but it wasn't. And then they go up the stairs and they go into the sister's bedroom, and Dr. Loomis is sort of having flashbacks saying like, it happened right here. Then he goes to the window, looks out the window, says he could have seen her from here. This thing comes down and breaks the glass, and it is a jump scare, and it did get me. But every jump scare in every movie, no matter what it is, horror or not, no matter how many times I've seen the movie, jump scares always make me jump. They don't make me scream like they do with other people, but I always have a little jump. It doesn't matter what it is. King Kong, Harry Potter, anything. And I loved when Dr. Loomis fumbles and gets his gun out and starts sort of laughing, saying, you probably think I'm a sinister doctor. And then the cop just doesn't look impressed at all. I like after Dr. Loomis's instinct was to get his permit out, he's like, I do have a permit, I can carry a gun. And the cop's just like, yeah, you're definitely scared. And I have no idea why the cop, being in the position he is, thought it was a good idea to inform the radio and the news media about it, because Dr. Loomis is 100% right. They will look for Michael and find him on every street corner and in every house. People will be wrongly accused. Kids will probably pretend to be him to play pranks. There's going to be mass hysteria, and it will just make the whole situation a lot harder for them to handle. And it will be sort of like a wild goose chase. So they definitely need sort of the element of surprise, because if the media knows, Michael's probably going to know as well, and he can use it to his advantage, blending into crowds that will form. However, I didn't think it was a good idea that Dr. Loomis decided to stay at the house himself, because he is just a doctor, and throughout the whole movie he's been saying how dangerous and how much to not underestimate Michael. But he decides to stay there by himself anyway with just a little revolver. Like, what's that going to do really to this guy? Granted, at the moment he does probably think he is still human, even though he says that he's not, which is, I understand why Donald Pleasence said it's melodramatic, but it works for his character, and his execution really fits, because Dr. Loomis does have the best lines in the movie, and it is a joy to see him on screen. He really made the movie for me. I think that if he wasn't in the movie, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. I think he did an excellent performance. When he says that he met a 6-year-old child and he was told that there was nothing left, that he had no sense of right or wrong, life or death, and then he talks about his face, which I thought was really interesting, because he's basically describing what Michael looks like with the mask. And I think it's cool that Michael chose that mask and that his face looks similar to the mask, because he says that he has this plain, white, pale face with no expression and black eyes, the devil's eyes. They're really pushing this. He is the boogeyman, devil personified. And it just makes me think, I wonder why Michael even wears a mask in the first place. It is not like a big thing, but it's just something that I think about in the back of my mind. One of the things I liked most about what Dr. Loomis said was when he was talking to the cop in the house, and he said, I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to lock him up, because I understood that there was no help in this guy, basically. I am paraphrasing, but I like the approach he had in the beginning, you know, sort of like a young person's outlook on life, where they think they can help everyone and everyone's got a bit of good inside of them. And then, you know, after he's sort of the old grouchy guy with the beard, and it's like, yeah, no, the world's an awful place, people are awful. Not everyone, but some people you just can't help. They are just awful people, a bit like Joker would say. everyone's awful. I just really liked the way he said it. It was so sort of like cold, dead inside. Like he's seen a lot. Like, you know, it makes me think of what he actually saw when he was trying to talk to Michael and trying to help him. He probably just saw it on his face. You know, I like to imagine that. I really love the Thing Easter egg they put in there as well. They're watching horror movies throughout the night and the Thing comes on. And I had to Google when it came out because I saw that it came out after Halloween. So I was like, how is it in here? Was there an original before John Carpenter's The Thing? But I read somewhere that he thought he would never be able to make The Thing, so he put it in there as an Easter egg. And I think it is the same font and title from the movie he made later on. But I found it really trippy and I thought it was really cool. It was like he was predicting the future like The Simpsons. I'd just like to say, I know this is the point, but Annie is such a bad babysitter. If Michael did kill kids, I don't know if he does, but if he did, Lindsay would definitely be dead if she stayed with Annie. I was so happy when Annie was more interested in seeing her boyfriend and ditching Lindsay with Laurie, because it made me feel like she was more safe with Laurie than Annie. I found the whole car thing funny because she goes to try and get in the car and it's locked, so she gets keys and then opens the door without putting the keys in, and she didn't think it was strange that the car is just open now. I also loved the singing she did. I found it funny. Annie is really hilarious throughout the whole movie. I think when I said this film is funny, it's mostly her that is funny in the movie. And then she finds that there's white stuff on the windscreen, and then Michael just jumps out of the... He doesn't quite jump out, but he comes from the back seat, and I think he chokes her. And that was quite cool, but also sad. But before this happened, I liked the whole fake out they did. You know, when she spilled something on her clothes and she had to get changed and wash them, and the washing machine and tumble dryer were out in this outdoor shed area, and the door kept locking and opening, and Michael was there, but he didn't do nothing. I like how patient he is, and Dr. Loomis says how patient he is, because he could have easily killed them anytime, even during the day, but he chose not to. I really liked that element, and I did think that she was going to die in there, especially when she was hanging out of the window and got stuck. But I really enjoyed the whole fake out. I think it was one of the best fake outs I've seen in a horror movie, because, you know, they happen in all horror movies. It's just a thing. I also found it funny when Tommy tries to scare Lindsay, but then he sees Michael through the window and then he gets scared himself. It's like instant karma. And then I liked it when the kids that were bullying Tommy went to the Myers' house, and Dr. Loomis is outside now behind the hedge waiting for Michael to come in. I just love that he scared them. Obviously it's a good thing he saved them from potential harm, but I love that he reveled in it and he enjoyed it. It made him laugh, and he's like, "Hey Lonnie, get your ass out of there." Then the cop comes behind him, makes him jump, and I found it funny because it is another thing of, you scare someone, you get scared yourself. It's instant karma at its best. And what is it with this cop? He keeps scaring people throughout the whole day. Is he a bit sinister? I do feel bad for Dr. Loomis because he can't win. He's putting all this effort in to catch Michael, and they're like, "You're putting in all this effort, I'm not going to put in all this effort. But if we are, and you are right, then screw you for letting him out," even though he didn't let him out. Like, come on, he told everyone to have more precautions with Michael Myers, but they didn't believe him. And then they just blame him when it wasn't even his fault. But I like that Dr. Loomis does take responsibility for it, and he takes it upon himself to stop it. He doesn't even care about his job. He leaves because he knows this is more important, morally right. And he can be the hero. It's like Batman. He is the hero that they need but don't deserve, you know. They will chase him because he can take it. He can take being blamed because he knows that stopping Michael is too important. I also liked it after he killed the guy with the glasses, the way that he looked at him like he was proud of himself and pleased with the sort of art that he created, and that he just looks at him sideways like, It's sort of like he enjoyed seeing him struggle and then watching all the life drain out of him, and he was just sort of entranced in what he did. And I loved it when Michael put the white sheet on him and had 2 little eye holes and the glasses to make it look like the boyfriend was wearing ghost costume, one of them ones that everyone's made because it's so easy and it's the cheap one to do. It's a classic Halloween costume, and he goes up to scare the blonde girl, and I thought it was so funny because he didn't need to do that. He could have just walked up there, killed her. Like, what would she have done? Even though Michael is slow, he is a lot stronger than her, and she had no real way of escaping apart from maybe jumping out the window, but then she would have hurt herself and Michael would have managed to catch her quite easily anyway. I just liked that he was just standing there pretending to be the boyfriend, which she believed. She thought he was just trying to scare her, and he didn't talk, but it made sense because it was like he was trying to play a prank on his girlfriend. So then I liked it because she got fed up of waiting for her boyfriend to get his act together, stop playing a prank on her. It went on a bit too long for her. You could tell that she was starting to get a bit annoyed and was like, all right then, be like that, because obviously she still thinks it's her boyfriend and not Michael. And then she phones Laurie. So when she picks up the phone, Michael quite quickly comes up behind her and starts choking her with the cord. You can see that he was quite patient, and then he went in for the kill quite literally. I swear it was the fastest he moved all movie. As soon as she turned her back and picked up the phone, he was like, nah fam, I'm gonna get you. You ain't talking to no one. And by the time Laurie answers, that blonde girl's already being choked. I can't remember her name. But the funny thing about it is Laurie doesn't even realise it's the blonde girl. She thinks it's Annie because of earlier when she was chewing on the phone. And then says, first I hear your famous chewing, now I hear your famous moaning, and sort of really plays it off as that she's just messing about, and like it's just this girl being choked to death, which is quite funny in a bit of a demented way. I don't know if other people found that funny. I find a lot of things like this funny in a lot of movies where I probably shouldn't. Like, it's not a spoiler, but in it, when Georgie is running and he hits his head on that barrier, makes me laugh every time in the cinema. Only person laughing, but it's hilarious. That's beside the point. Like, I get sidetracked quite a lot. I go off on different tangents. And then the moment we all been waiting for, Michael picks up the phone and just breathes. And you can see in Laurie's face that she knows that something bad has happened, and that there's a difference between the breathing and the moaning and the chewing, and it's a bit more serious. I like the expression on her face. Also, I forgot to say earlier, I love it when she's looking out the window at Michael and the teacher asks her a question and she's not paying any attention and she still gets the answer right. That is so funny. Then we start getting to the final part of the movie, and this is where it really ramps up for me. This is where I get really excited. This is my favorite part of the movie. It's like you are invested in this point. The rest of the movie was really good, apart from a few little issues that I had. But you're watching it, you're enjoying it, and then you're all in at this point. Because Dr. Loomis finally finds the car that Michael stole, and he knows he's here. Then the cop comes and he's like, he's here. You go around the back, I'll go around the front. Then Laurie decides to go and check on the house across from her, which her friends were at. And then it's all a bit spooky and unsettling. Nothing looks too strange. It's just this, like the lights are off. But then she goes into the bedroom and she sees that this, I think it was Annie, is on the bed with the tombstone of Judith Myers. And I just love how theatrical he is with doing that. It's like he wants everyone to know he's back and he doesn't care that people know it's him. It's like he almost does really enjoy the fact that people know that it's him and fear him and know what he's capable of. Then she goes and looks in a wardrobe and the guy with the glasses swings out like that, and then she goes into another cupboard and sees the blonde girl crumpled up in there, and she screams, and then she backs up into a dark doorway area, and I know that everyone loved this bit because it's absolutely sick. you see that Michael's face slowly emerges from the darkness, and it's really subtle. It's not like you would miss it, but it's not too in your face like it could have been. Then he takes a slice at Laurie, cuts her on the arm, and she runs, and she shuts the door, and Michael just punches his hand through the door, and he opens it, but he tries to walk through with it, forgetting to take his arm out. Like, he has a real urge to kill her, and that, like, he didn't even process that his arm was through the door. I really love that he had to take a moment to take it out and then carry on the pursuit. She runs out, and she's freaking out. She has no idea what to do. So she goes to the neighbour and rings on the doorbell asking for help. She's screaming hysterically, and then they just turn off the lights. They think she's playing a prank. Obviously it's Halloween, but I hope that if I was in that situation that I would, at least check through the peephole or the window to see if it was genuine. Like, if I saw that her arms were cut up, I think I'd be able to tell if it was real or if it was a Halloween costume and a prank. Obviously, I understand they might not want to go out. So then she starts going back to the house with the kids, and Michael starts following her, and she sees him coming up behind her. My favourite piece of music from the film starts playing. I think it's called The Shape Stalks, and it's the bit where it's like do, 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 on the piano keys, and it is awesome. This is where I was on the edge of my seat, because Michael's going for her. She's trying to get into the house. It's locked. She's trying to wake up Tommy, and he's just so out of it. He's like, I'm so tired. What do you want? And he slowly opens the door, and Michael's walking towards her gradually. I like that he doesn't walk too slowly. He walks like he's casual and taking his time, but it's not too slow. You have a sense of dread and inevitability. And like some of the kids were saying earlier, the boogeyman's gonna get you. It feels like he is coming, and he is gonna get you no matter what. Like, you can't stop him. He is coming. It's not as slow as, say, a Cyberman, when you could easily just run away. And even if you get tired, you can have a little break and run away further. He doesn't walk excessively slowly, which I really enjoyed. Like, other slashers do definitely walk way too slow. But I thought he would have caught up to her by the time that Tommy unlocked the door, or at least when Laurie was trying to lock the door. And I think he would have, but because he's a bit methodical, which goes into the point where I don't know if he's smart or dumb, he decided not to go there. It's pretty obvious that he would go there, but Laurie just takes a seat by the sofa on the floor to try and catch her breath, and then she notices that the curtain is blowing in wind and that the window is open. And then you hear Michael breathing through his mask, and we know he's there. She knows he's there, but neither of us know where. So we've got the same feeling, and I love it in films when the audience has the same feeling as the characters. It's very suspenseful. It feels much like Jaws, where the Jaws theme is playing. You see the fin, but you don't quite know because it goes under again. So you know Jaws is there, but then he's gone, and you know he's gonna get someone, but there's like a couple of options, and you don't know where he's gonna come from. It felt like that. And then he jumps up from out of the sofa, takes a stab at her, misses, and I love this badass moment from Laurie. She just takes this knitting needle and stabs it in his eye. Like, that was really good character development, and like, you see the fight or flight, because earlier she was scared, she was vulnerable, she didn't know what to do, she ran. That's the flight. And then when she was in a situation where she had no other option but to fight, it was life or death, her instincts took over, and she just stabbed him in the eye. It was awesome. And then I love it when she runs up the stairs, she tells the kids that she killed the boogeyman, and Tommy says, "You can't kill the boogeyman," and he's all like scared and crying. And then you see Michael come up the stairs, the kids scream, and Laurie is like, "Oh, okay, he's alive somehow," and runs into the wardrobe. So then Michael punches through the wardrobe, and then he fumbles around with this light for ages, and I don't know why. Like, come on, Michael, just get in there and get her. But Laurie undoes this coat hanger and stabs him again. Then he drops his knife, and she instantly just stabs him with it, and he falls backward. She gets out, I love that she just tells the kids to go to another house to get help, and that she doesn't even claim to kill him. She might even think that she did, but she doesn't want to take any chances with protecting these kids, and doesn't make the same mistake twice. And then she sits down in this doorway to catch her breath, but you see Michael behind her, and he raises up, and you're just like, Laurie, go, get up, come on. Like, you actually feel like that is a very pantomime feeling, but not in the comic sense. It's a sense of dread, like, you need to get up. We can see him, so it's a beautiful shot. And then Dr. Loomis is walking down the street, and he sees the kids running out screaming, and the penny's dropped. He's clicked, and he knows where it's going down. He goes in to see. Then he finds that Laurie is struggling with Michael, and then I don't like this shot because he takes his gun out and aims it at Michael, and then Laurie takes Michael's mask up, and you can clearly see his face, and he even moves into the light so you can see it even better, and he's just fumbling around with it for ages, and he finally puts it down, and then Dr. Loomis shoots him once, and he backs up into this room, and he just stays there. He doesn't move. It's like he's waiting to get shot again, which really confused me. So I really didn't like that. And then obviously Dr. Loomis proceeds to shoot him 5 more times, and he falls out of the balcony. If I did it differently, I would have had them struggle, but had Dr. Loomis shoot Michael before she managed to take his mask off, and then I wouldn't have Michael be so slow. I'd have maybe Dr. Loomis shoot him twice so he goes a bit further, then he starts walking again, and then Dr. Loomis just shoots him 4 more times, and then he falls out of the balcony. I think that would have worked better instead of him just waiting there. I also didn't like that his eye was deformed. I don't know why that happened. It made no sense to me. We don't get an explanation of how or why it happened. He wasn't physically deformed as a kid, and unless it was from the needle, but it looked like the eye socket was actually deformed more than the eye itself, so it didn't really work for me. I know that Friday the 13th came out after, but I feel like they did the deformity of him and his explanation to kill people a lot better. There was a solid reason for both things, which you didn't get in Halloween. So that, to me, is the worst shot, because I hate that you see in his face, because they're trying to tell you the whole movie that he's not human. He is evil itself, the devil personified, and then taking his mask off, it gives him more of a human element, and then you see that he is just a guy, and it takes away from his scariness, I would say. And then I love the interaction with Laurie and Dr. Loomis, where she says, "Was that the boogeyman?" And he says, "As a matter of fact, it was." Then Dr. Loomis goes to check to see if the body's there, to make sure he's dead, and all you see is the imprint of Michael's body there and some blood on the ground. And Dr. Loomis's face is, he's shocked and he's terrified. He's like, what the hell is going on? This guy definitely isn't human. So he goes downstairs to look, and the theme starts playing, and you can hear Michael's breathing. And for that reason, that's why I wanted more. It felt like a starter to the main course, that it was going to get more serious in a sequel. If they just left his body there, then it would feel like it'd be a complete story. But personally for me, the fact that he wasn't there and you could hear his breathing showed that he was actually up and active and in the location they were. As I know that he wanted to do an anthology, it kind of didn't feel like this was a one and done. It made me want more. Also, I feel bad for when that dog is barking and Michael just kills it and it stops, and Annie doesn't even realise or cares. I also love when the guy with the glasses says, "I'll be right back." It made me think of Scream, and I know Scream came out after, it was heavily influenced by films like Halloween. I mean, they even show it in the film, but it instantly made me laugh. I can't take that line seriously anymore. Scream has ruined that line for me, but in all of the best ways. It didn't take away from the movie. I just like connecting dots with other movies. I always like references and stuff. Now, I'm not going to point out all of the mistakes in a lot of movies, but I did notice this one and I found it funny. It didn't take away from the movie, I just found it funny. When they credit Michael as being 23 when he would have been 21, as it was 15 years, and he was 6 when he went into the asylum, I just found it hilarious that they got it wrong. And I know it is difficult to make a film and it is hard for continuity and to not have any mistakes. I don't think there is a film that hasn't got any mistakes, and I haven't seen one myself, even though I do not notice a lot of them. Some of them you do, and some are quite bad, some you can sort of forgive. Like this one, it doesn't affect the movie in any way. Especially with lighting, it's really hard to get lighting right, especially if you're filming outside, because obviously, you know, it's nature and it doesn't go with your plans. So it's really hard when you've got lighting in this way. It's really hard to recreate it, even if you have got a lot of lighting and budget. So that's it for my spoiler review. I hope you all enjoyed. I would rate this film at 8 out of 10. You might think that's a bit harsh, but this is only for slasher movies, and it's a lot easier to put worse ones below it, you know? But if I did find a film that was better, which I haven't yet, but if I did, but it wasn't worth a 10, I wouldn't want to be stuck to put it at the same place as Halloween or as a 10. So this is the bar. It's a very high bar for me personally, but that is explaining my thing. And this is just for slasher movies, and you know, every genre would have their own ratings. As a slasher movie, it is incredible, and that is not downplaying slasher movies. It's just one of the best ones. So that's it from me. And tell me what you thought in the comments below. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like, what other movies you would like me to review. Let's open up a discussion. So like if you enjoyed, comment down below your thoughts and opinions, subscribe if you want to see more, and hit that ding dong notification bell to stay up to date whenever I post a new video. I want you to watch more movies. See you in the next video.